Hello here, this is Sean coming from Brit's room because my Wi-Fi doesn't work, and this is my end of the semester goal reflection as well as action plan. So, looking at my goals from the start of the semester, I would say that this semester wasn't the best in terms of achieving my goal. Before I go into the metacognition, I'm just going to give a kind of a quick recap of what I wanted to accomplish and what I actually accomplished. What I wanted to accomplish is I wanted to get Graston certified. Wasn't able to do this because I kind of had a little bit of misinterpretation of when we were getting Graston certified through the DAT. The clinic offered a Graston certification, but they didn't tell us until 9 p.m. the previous night, so I wasn't able to attend because I didn't know what it was. Second one was to study for and take the CSCS exam in the second week of May. I had used Beth as an accountability buddy, as we called it, and unfortunately we didn't really keep each other accountable because there's really nothing. We didn't determine how we were going to keep each other accountable, and that just kind of fell apart. So I studied for about 3 weeks, not prepared to take the test, so I'm not going to take it. The next goal was to go through the EHR and do a little bit of kind of practice-based analysis, see what the most common injuries were throughout the season, and to develop a plan that can be used to help prevent those. In my case, it was ankle sprains, and through one of the assignments that we had in lower this semester, I actually created a generic kind of warm-up protocol that can be used at the beginning of practice that will, help strengthen the ankle and surrounding musculature, which then might help decrease ankle sprains. So I did accomplish that goal. And yeah, so those were kind of the main goals I had. I also had a goal about staying up with research and then kind of a side goal about publication. I didn't really reach the publication goal just because, unfortunately, I was rejected by the outlet that I wanted to apply to, but I resubmitted it, so that goal is kind of just up in the air. I don't know how to evaluate that one. The second one was to stay up on the research for the semester in the IRB, and currently I feel like I'm sitting pretty well. My IRB has been approved, and I am just waiting on the rest of the equipment before I begin pilot testing and eventually data collection, so that's good. So when we had our Collaborate session, I feel like I started this metacognitive approach, and when you had asked us if we could write down what some of our goals were this semester, I immediately jumped to those goals which I had not accomplished. And the goals were Graston training, CSCS, and a few other goals that I hadn't written in the beginning of the year goal planning that were more personal goals, and I immediately jumped to those because those were the most evident goals in my mind. And what I realized is that on paper, it looks like I haven't accomplished a lot. It looks like I've made these goals, and in my head, I've slacked throughout the process of the semester because I've only gotten about 50% of my goals. That isn't exactly how I would look at the semester. When I look back at the semester, I say, okay, first half of the semester, basketball season, it was rough. I was, fighting, I was working a bunch, and academic was also very rigorous, but for the most part, I handled it well. Kind of at the end of that season there, I had a little bit of a downturn, had about 2 or 3 weeks where I was just bleh. But for the most part, I handled it well. And second half of the semester, aside from some personal issues, I felt that I did a really good job, and I focused on a lot of other small goals that I hadn't written out, such as being a better preceptor, being more attentive to my schoolwork, having a more positive attitude in the clinic. So I definitely did accomplish goals. Now what I noticed is that the connection between the goals that I actually set for myself at the beginning of the semester and what I feel that I actually accomplished at the end of the semester is not the same. So this leads me to kind of two conclusions about the whole goal setting process for me. The first conclusion is that I need to make better goals. When I sit down and make these goals, I feel like I don't make them off of what I want, I make them off of what I should do. And obviously goals should incorporate what you should do, but when I made these goals, it wasn't what was at the forefront of my mind, if that makes sense. So, for example, the CSCS is not something I have to do. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, yeah, but given the exact scenario and the time frame, it's not something that I wanted to do. I didn't want to have to kill myself by having academics, personal life, and then clinical life, and then also study for this huge exam on top of it. I didn't want to do that at that time. That might have been a goal that might be better for the summer semester, or perhaps when we're only taking 9 credits. And similarly, when I wrote in those goals, I didn't have any goals that I really, really wanted. So, like personal goals, fulfillment goals. So, as I talked about earlier, one of my kind of things I felt successful about was being a better preceptor. And I wrote a little bit about that in the goal setting, but in being kind of working with those SMART goals, I had been so specific that I wanted to go through and look at preceptor training and X, Y, and Z. And the route that I actually took to become a better preceptor wasn't anything with how I created my SMART goal. So I don't think I actually took the time to create the goals. Yes, they might have been SMART goals, but I didn't create them in such a way that I knew that I would be successful. So that's something that I need to do better moving on into next semester, creating goals for myself in the future. The second thing that I realized is that I need to work on how to keep myself accountable, because if we look at these goals, the goals that I accomplished were the ones that I had something to make me accountable for. And I think what's really interesting is if we look at the whole CSCS goal, where I had an accountability buddy, as we called it, even though we made that relationship, we didn't follow through on that relationship. She didn't keep me accountable, but at the same breath, I didn't keep her accountable. So that didn't really help anything, and it quickly just fell off the cliff to die and never be brought back to life for this semester. But if we look at things such as kind of analyzing the injuries I've had in sportswear for this semester, creating the kind of post or pre-workout plan for ankle strengthening, and then we also look at some of the research stuff, I had someone to hold me accountable to that, and that was basically you guys. And that creates an interesting dichotomy because, yes, having someone or like having to be accountable for your goals or having something that holds you accountable is good, but I also want to reach that point where I can fully and autonomously hold myself accountable for things that I see fit. Now, that's not something that I want to do completely with every single goal across the board that I have, but there's definitely certain things where I can only hold myself accountable for certain goals, whether those be personal or professional. So I think what I'm going to do, and moving a little bit on to the next semester, like I said, I need to be a lot smarter with how to plan my goals. And how I'm going to do that, I think I'm going to split it up. I'm going to give myself a maximum cap of 4 or 5 overarching goals to accomplish. I want to make 2 or 3, probably 3 of those goals, things in which I have someone else helping me be accountable. Not holding me accountable, but helping me be accountable. Whether it's Britt over here and we decide we want to do something and we actually sit down and we create kind of a contract of the relationship in which we hold ourselves accountable, or if it's something that I know a class will help me develop. So 2 to 3 goals in which another individual or an entity or something else will help me be accountable. Now, the other 2 goals I want to be something that I can hold myself completely accountable for. And to be honest, these are probably going to start off with more simplistic goals, maybe more personal goals like eating healthier, working out more, or, such as last semester, being more positive when I go into the clinic. Something that's relatively simple to attain that I can focus on holding myself accountable, because I think that's a really big skill that I need to work on. And I think I started working on this a little bit last semester, and I talked about this a little bit in our Reflections Collaborate session. When I wanted to become a better preceptor, even though I didn't set that in my goals really specifically at the beginning of the semester, I noticed at the end of the semester there was times where I didn't want to be a good preceptor. I just wanted to go home and go to bed because it was 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, but I would sit there and I would tell myself, okay, you need to buck it up. Because as a student, you would get frustrated when a preceptor didn't give you the time of day, and you need to do this for your students to be a better preceptor, and I did that. And I think that was a good way to start holding myself accountable, and I felt really accomplished with it at the end of the semester. When I sat down with my students and did their evaluations, they said nice things, and normally when you're in a position of quote-unquote power over someone, sometimes they feel obligated to say nice things. But they just brought it out of the blue. I didn't even ask for feedback. I told them to put completely honest feedback in their online feedback of me, and I was surprised when they just had all these great things to say, and I felt really, really accomplished, which in turn made me want to continue that goal. And I think that that really shows how and what drives me, and I think that's a sense of accomplishment. Now, I don't know if that sense of accomplishment needs to be internal or external, to be completely honest, because going back to what I said about holding me accountable, if so, for example, if I turn in an assignment and I get good feedback, that's kind of external reinforcement, and that makes me feel good, but I still don't know if I'm completing that goal because I have to, because someone is holding me accountable, or if there's a personal drive deep within me to want to push for that. And then if you juxtapose that with the scenario that I just talked about, where I have this internal gratification and kind of this internal feedback of me personally doing something, and that's what really makes me want to continue doing that. So, drawing it back into my goal planning, I need to make sure that I put some of the things that I want into my goals. Now, again, all these goals might not be something that I want to do, but I need to find a way to be able to personally invest myself in these goals, or else I'm not going to move towards that spectrum of holding myself more accountable, as I talked about. So, overall, when I look at the semester, it was all right. And I was a little down on myself until I started, talking with my coaches for the end of the semester, and they're really appreciative of what I did. I did my end of the semester evaluation with my clinical supervisor, and she was happy with my performance. And when I sat down to sign my summer contract and I saw a 3.9 GPA on that contract, to be honest, that just made me smile a little bit, coming from someone who was fairly middle of the pack, an undergrad rocking a 3, 4, or 5. Being able to, see some of those tangible accomplishments really helped. And that's something that I really want to move forward with going into the summer semesters and finishing up this last year. Now, I'm not going to lie, I can tell that at this point I'm a wee bit burnt out. And that's because I haven't seen my family in an entire year. I haven't gone home. I haven't really had a break from academics. But I'm going home for about 2 weeks. I'm seeing my best friend. I'm seeing my family. I'm seeing my grandparents. My brother is graduating. I'm taking a quick stint in Denver as a vacation. So that's going to be really good to help refresh myself for everything that I want to do and kind of give me that power to go through, knock out the summer, take another break at the end of summer, and power through the rest of this DAT course. Not saying it's not fun, but I definitely need to take some time for myself. So that's my end of the semester reflection, and thank you very much for a good semester.